Very good afternoon to all, and this is Sonia sitting in front of you, and a very warm welcome everyone on our channel Exam for IAS English Medium. So very good afternoon to all, and this is Sonia sitting in front of you, and a very warm welcome everyone on our channel Exam for IAS English Medium. I hope my voice is completely audible and the screen behind me is completely visible, everyone. And in this session, as you can see on the screen, everyone, in today's session is completely based on status of Indian women. So whenever we discuss about the social aspects of Indian society, definitely the characters like women, or we can say the figures like women, are not completely ignorable. If I just giving the present example, I think the whole the whole nation of India is just screamed and just looking for the justice of Bilkis Bano. And this is such a very current, this is not only the current issues, but also a very, we can say, the serious issue in these days, and which is completely unforgettable. And whenever we discuss about the social issues and social events, the figures like women is always become the matter of concern. And I hope in the yesterday's session I already discussed about the role of the women in the freedom struggle. And in this in that session, yesterday's session, we already discussed about the role and their characterization, the aim, the factors, and the reasons behind of that, how that how the women are very important in the how the role of the Indian women is very much important in the Indian history, and it is completely unforgettable and ignorable as well. So this is all about the short introduction of the status of the women. Whenever we use the status, definitely it is defining somewhere the word like equality, right? So whenever we use the word status, definitely it is completely considering with the equality. So it is very important to understand that what we understand with the meaning of the status, what and where we need of the equality in the social perspective or in the cultural perspective, in the religious perspective, the equality on the economic basis. So we have a numerous of the factors, we have a numerous of the reasons behind it, everyone. So and on the other hand, definitely we cannot forget the contribution of the women in the Indian history. Definitely when we will talk about the Quit India movement, the movement like movement like Quit India movement, the movement like non-cooperation, and definitely the participation and the contribution of the women is completely ignorable and forgettable. And in the yesterday's session, I feel that I already explained everyone about the role and the role and because the characterization of the women. And definitely we cannot forget about the time phase of a 19th century and the 20th century, that how the women earlier became the part of exploitation, and later on, after the introduction of the social religious reformation by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was not only the personality who always considered as the person of modern India, but definitely the person like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, the person like Dayanand Saraswati, and the most designatory personality and the respected personality like Vivekananda and Dayanand Saraswati, they always realizing us about the equality, and somewhere they are not discussing about the problems in the existing Indian society, but also they will always try to be find out the solution of the existing social evils. So whenever we discuss about the social issues, the social evils, we cannot forget about the role of the women, we cannot forget about the contribution of the women, and we cannot forget about the suppression, the subjugation of the women that we suffered from not only in the 21st century in these days, but still we are suffered from last 5,000 years ago, right? So we are just going to discuss all these things. I hope as per the mains perspective, everyone, this topic is a very sensitive and important for everyone. Why it is sensitive? Because whenever we start to writing the your answers, when you start to just go ahead with your answers on the paper. So it is very important to discuss about the positive and the negative aspects of everything. So definitely whenever you discuss about all these things, you have to be choose the mid path, because women, that the issues on the women's is not only the matter of concern, but also the, you know, somewhere the sensitive issues in the social aspects. And definitely this topic is also important to understand the correlation of the women, the status of the women with the social issues, with the cultural issues, with the religious issues. So it is very important to correlate the all the dimensions, the all the social status and the all the subjugation, the sufferness of the women with each and every social aspect. Even whenever we discuss about the male dominancy attitude, when we discuss about the patriarchal societies, so ऐसा है कि बहुत कुछ चल रहा है, that बहुत कुछ का मतलब है कि in the mainstream that everything is going on. So it is very important to understand that what we need actually and where we want to stop ourselves and how we can create a equal opportunity, not only the women but also to every person who are just looking for the right for the equal survival. So women is also the part of the equality. So definitely we are just going to discuss the topic in a very depth manner. We will try to be critically analysis the question, and this question is already asked in 2017 everyone in the UPSC mains question. So we will try to be correlate, we will try to be connect the question with the current, not only the current issues that I already giving the example of a Bilkis Bano, but definitely will try to be connect the status of the women with the past history, with the ancient, the post-Vedic era specifically. And we cannot forget about the subjugation and suppression of the women and the reformation that is completely transformed the life of the women in the 19th and the 20th century, right? So before going to start this session everyone, I would just like to mention about the exam for Sarkari Naukri preparation app everyone. So it is a very simplified app everyone. You can just go simply on the Play Store, just write down the exam for Sarkari Naukri preparation app, and after that definitely you can just register yourself with your phone number, with your email ID, and you can choose your exam preparation as per your need. And definitely this app is not only important, or we can say not only important because you are just going to preparation for your government jobs, but definitely you can ask your doubts, your career counseling. You can directly connect with the teachers. You can ask the paid batches with our calling team. Definitely it is completely helpful for everyone who are just looking for the as a dream of a government exam, or those are looking for the preparation for a government exams. Now, so this is all about the question everyone, you can see on the screen. So the question is directly asked on the status of the women. So status of the women, whenever we discuss about the word status, is completely showing the equality of the women in the society. So what about the status of the women? While understanding the historical perspective of social status of the women, definitely you can correlating the question with it, and you are just looking for the question for critically analysis. Critically analysis means when we try to be represent the both the aspects, the positive, the negative, and whenever we try to be represent the question with the role playing of women in Indian freedom struggle, right? So we will try to be connect the status of the women question with the Indian freedom struggle, and the role played by women in Indian freedom struggle has been of helpers rather than crusaders. The helpers, when we looking for the contribution, but when we looking at the crusaders, when we looking for the contribution in the battles, in the wars, or in the freedom struggle movement. Somehow when we try to be translate the meaning of a crusaders. So in this session everyone, we are just going to discuss, and we will just try to be correlating everything with the role playing attitude. Role playing attitude means whenever we discuss about all the dimensions of it. Just a minute. Okay, so whenever we discuss about the question like role played by women in Indian freedom struggle, see, whenever we discuss about the terminology like Indian freedom struggle, so the Indian freedom struggle is not only limited anywhere, right? The struggle is already started from the time phase of 1757, and just not because of the arrival of a British Empire, but also we are always suffered with the attacks of the invaders. So freedom doesn't mean that we want to just get rid out of the British Empire colonialism ideology and opinions, but definitely the freedom is specifically means when we're looking for our equality and equal rights. For example, I already giving the example of a post-Vedic era. Whenever we try to be correlate from the beginning of the Indian history, the Harappan civilization is somehow just representing the civilization who completely favoring the women equality, or somehow definitely we can say the society who is completely forwarding the motherhood society. But definitely when we move ahead in the Vedic age or the post Vedic phase, everyone, the transition of the women's status is completely changed. On the time of the Vedic era, definitely the society is just standing around the equality and the equal status for the women. But definitely whenever we discuss about and in the Vedic era, we cannot forget about the contribution of the Sabha and Samiti and Vidhat also, that how the women were always how the women were also very much we can feel that their talent, their contribution in the Vedic age, and they always participating as the person they always participating in the political we can see the political decisions making. But whenever we shift ourselves in the post-Vedic age, we can definitely, I think, we also saw the transformation and the transition of the women's status when the position of the Sabha and Samiti and the voting rights of the women, and specifically the political status of the women is completely boycotted in the post-Vedic ages. So we can definitely realizing that in the present time in 21st century, why we are discussing the topic like women's status, the women equality, the social equality, the cultural equality, the religious, the participation, the voting rights, the opportunity, the education, why we are looking for all these topics and why we are discussing all these things. Definitely it is these are not only the important topic, but somehow it is representing the social the society of the whole nation. See, I think one of the historian is just explaining in a very fine manner while putting the concern on the women's situation. As he said that if you want to look at the society, if you want to look at the upgradation of the society, definitely you can see the situation of the women, or you can see the situation of the educational equality or educational opportunity of the women. Right, so this is not only the important topic as per the social issues, but definitely still after the subjugation and the suppression of the women from last 5,000 years, definitely if you are still talking on the a topic like the we can say the equal status, the equality, and still if you are suffering with the the current issues like Wilkes Barno, definitely we can say that these are the topics which are completely not acceptable at all. And this is and we are looking for the time when we are not discussing on the topics like women's status, women equality, and it is at somewhere when we start to looking for the implementation, when the ideas and the implementation of ideas is going to be implemented later on. Fine, so we are just going to realize everyone, Indian freedom struggle, that I already told you, it's not only a short pan of a time. It is such a very long pan of a time from 1757 till the time phase of 1957. Moreover, it was a time phase of 300 years ago, 300 years, and in the 300 years after the freedom, we can say from the 1947, we already celebrating the 75th Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So we already celebrating, we can say, moreover 3,700 years of the we can say the freedom struggle of the women, and we are just not celebrating their contribution, their we can say the braveryness. We cannot forget the name like Subhadra Kumari Chauhan, and it is after the I think moreover the time phase of passing time phase of 200 years, we're still recalling the queen like Rani Jhansi. So this is somehow not only surprising for Indian struggle movement, but definitely we can just giving the respect, or definitely we are just appreciating the contribution of the queens and the women who are just sacrificing themselves just for the sake for the nation. So we are just going to start the question, everyone. You can see on the screen the app I already explained, everyone. And what about the approaches? See, I think you already understand the question. So what the question is actually needed, everyone? The question is actually needed about the approach. Explain the significance of the women in the freedom struggle. So what the whenever we choose the approach, everyone, what we are going to understand in the question, we are to completely understand the question. So the question is based on whom? We are looking for the role. Okay, and just okay. See, we are not looking for the role only, but also we are looking for the status. Like status of whom? The women. Like, or being a helper, we can say, or we can the crusaders. Role of the women in the freedom struggle movement. So what we are going to choose in this session, everyone? Surely we are just not only going to describe everything, that how the freedom struggle movement and how the contribution of the women is important in the freedom struggle movement, but definitely we are just going to representing the points in the introduction. In the introduction about the explanation of the role of a freedom, role of a, we can say the role or the contribution of the, we can say the role plus the contribution of women in freedom struggle movement. Whenever we're looking about the mid body, we are just try to be consolidate the whole freedom struggle movement in few of the lines. Even if I am going to explain about the non-cooperation movement, the Quit India movement, the civil disobedience movement, and the later on the 1947 freedom struggle movement. So we are just going to explain in a very short manner about all these incidents. And at the last, in the conclusion, whenever we try to be showing the concern and try to be correlate the topic, the status of the women, not only the present, not only the past time, but also try to be correlate the topic with the present time. So when we looking for the equal balance, and when we looking the, when we will try to be showing the question the connectivity, the interdisciplinary approach in the question, that how the past is completely impacted the present society in 21st century. Now, what about the next? Give some example to prove that women were not just the helpers but crusaders. In this session, we are just going to explain everyone about the example to prove that the women were not just only the helpers. Helpers means that we are not looking the women as a very sophisticated and we can say very sensitive type of we can figure, but definitely crusaders, when we looking the we can say the figure, we can say the queen like Rani Jhansi, we cannot forget about the name of Runa Asaf Ali, we cannot forget about the name like Usha Mehta, like a crusaders. Crusaders means when we looking at the person who can directly participate in the battles, or we can say so we cannot going to explain the women as a helper, but also we are looking the man as a, okay, very good afternoon, Mr. Abhinav, like a crusader. So we are just going to explain the significance we can say about the importance, everyone, the factors, the, we can say the aim, the reason behind it, about the women Indian freedom struggle. And in this session we are trying to be prove that how the woman is not only considered as a helper, as a only the housemaker, but definitely whenever it will be needed, women always just come out from their own homes, from their own houses, and they directly participate in the battles, and they're just looking. And sometimes when they start, when sometimes they are just always this sometimes holding the designation like Razia Sultan and Begum Hazrat Mahal. So we have a numbers of the examples like crusaders. So in the further session we will try to be explain each and every point in a very broad concept. So what about the introduction, everyone? Whenever we're looking for the introduction, that the history of the Indian struggle would be incomplete without mentioning the contribution of women. So what about the first point? Whenever we're looking about the status or the role of women in the freedom struggle movement, it is very important to discuss about the history of Indian struggle movement be incomplete without the mentioning the contribution of women. Surely we can say that if I'm already giving the example of a quit India movement, if I'm already giving the example of a non-cooperation movement, definitely we cannot forget about the contribution of the women. And what about the second point, everyone? When we're looking for the sacrifice made by the women of India will occupy the foremost place, right? Sacrifice made by the women, India will occupy the foremost place. And when most of the men freedom fighters were in prison, the women came forward and took charge of the struggle. So we have a very good example of a civil disobedience movement, everyone. And we have already a very good example of 1942 Quit India movement, right? And they fought with the spirit and unafraid courage and faced various tortures, exploitation and hardship to earn as a freedom. When we looking for the unafraid courage, and so we have a very good example of queen like Rani Jhansi. The figures and the personalities like Subhadra Kumari Chauhan, Usha Mehta, Aruna Asaf Ali, right? So we have a very good examples. Those are not only representing themselves in the Indian freedom struggle movements only helper, but also as a crusaders, right? Now, so what about the introduction, everyone? Whenever we looking the status of the women, whenever we looking the status of the women, we can say the status of women, the equal status of the women. Empowering of women presuppose a drastic, dynamic and democratic change in the perception of the expectation from the women in every society, right? So whenever we looking, I think the first line is completely clear to everyone. Whenever we looking about the we can say the women in every society, women in every society. So what is the expectation for the women? If the woman is surviving or living in the society, what is the actual expectation of the women when she looking herself as empowering? And the democratic change means when the women is looking for their own equal rights. And when we looking the perception means it is very important to change the perception specifically for the women as per the need of the society. That I'm already giving the example of a Bilkis Bano, that I'm already giving the example of a Nirbhaya Hatyakand, and yesterday's session I already giving the example of a fast track court. So it is very important to change the perception and the personality of the any of the women who is already surviving in the society. The work of any woman and the profession of any woman is never ever is not creating any perception for any one in the society. So it is very important to create a very positive sense of perception for any woman in the society. And to help women to attain economic independence is the first priority for such a change. Economic independence, when we looking for the equal opportunity for the women. Equal opportunity for the women means when we is going to be provide the equal opportunity, the equal earning opportunity as the men are doing in the society. So women are also very much free to go ahead from their own houses and just go ahead for earning. And economic independence, when they start to representing herself not only economically, not only just handling their own home, but when they start to representing themselves in the on the national level, but definitely on the international level. And facilities like drinking water, fresh air, light, clean surroundings, housing, communication, transport, education and basic health constitute that basic needs. A scientific perception of a woman's need is essential for the process which leads the empowering. So definitely what we can say that surely that the scientific perception means when we everything looking in a very practical manner. And the women are somewhere is a very practical personalities in the society. Definitely we can say that, because they are not handling their own houses, but only they are but also they are representing themselves, the whole nation, the whole country on the next level. They are not educating their own family, but the family somewhere educating and creating the chain to educate the whole society in somewhere. and the society is definitely representing the whole nation in one time. So definitely we can say that a scientific perception of a woman needs a essential process. Process means that it is very important. If the woman if the woman is already in the family process, if the woman is already in the social process, or if the woman is already in the making of a nation process, in the making of nation, so surely it is very important to empowering the women, because if a woman, if we can definitely empowering a one woman surely empowering the whole nation, directly or indirectly, or representing themselves not only the national level but on the international level. For that's why to giving the equal education, to giving the equal opportunity for the just surviving for the economic benefits, so surely it will be not empowering the women, but somewhere it is empowering the whole nation as well, everyone. Now, okay, the role played by women in Indian freedom struggle, crusaders and not just helpers. I think the image that I portraying on the screen, it is very clear must to everyone. And this image is not only portraying the courageousness, we can say the unscaredness behavior of the women, but definitely when we looking the people like East India Company, and the when we looking the people like the Portuguese, and the whenever we discuss about the movements like social religious movement, when the hierarchy class and the upper classes, probably the Brahmins, when they are not going to allowing the equal rights or equal benefits to the women, so surely this type of the incidents are very common after 19th century, after in the participation of social religious reformation by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and the contribution is somehow just giving the positive portraying scenarios in the society as well. And what about the early struggles? Women is participating in the Indian freedom struggle begin as early as 1817. I think we have already numbers of the figures and portraying images, everyone. Whenever we discuss about Rani Jhansi, when we discuss about Aruna Asaf Ali, Subhadra Kumari Chauhan, right, Sarojini Naidu, and we have the examples like Chittoors, we have examples like Jhalkari Bai, we have already examples like we can say Usha Mehta. So we have already very much, examples, the examples of Naga leaders as well. So we have a very good examples of it, which is completely unforgettable. So women participation in Indian's freedom struggle began as early in 1817. We can say when we discuss about the 19th century as well. And the Bhima Bai Holkar fought bravely against the British colonial rule, and Malcolm defeated him in the guerrilla warfare. And many women, including Rani Channamma of Kittur, Rani Begum Hazrat Mahal of Awadh, fought against the British East India Company in the 19th century and 30 years before the first war of independence, 1857. So we cannot forget about Rani Begum Hazrat Mahal in 1857, the participation in the Awadh when completely Dalhousie is discarding the king of the Awadh, that he was not the appropriate leader for Awadh, and he was not completely controlling the people of his own continent or province. So that's why later on Rani Begum Hazrat Mahal completely leading the whole Awadh praja, or we can say the public, on the same place, or representing herself as a, we can say, the queen of the Awadh. Fine. So we have a very good example with 1857. So we, and on the other hand, we cannot forget about the example of Rani Jhansi, which is not Rani Jhansi is not showing herself as a heroic personality in 1857, but definitely the way she's fighting with the Britishers, this is somehow a very exceptional example of Indian history. And not only Rani Jhansi, we have a rest of other examples when we're looking for the tribal areas, when we're looking for the peasantry class, the Kheda, the Ahmedabad in the early 20th century. And in the 19th century, we cannot forget the province like Nagpur, Awadh, Jhansi, Udaipur, Sambhalpur, Satara we have already. So this is somehow a very good example, and examples where they are not only showing the the participation of early 1817, but after 1817 till the time of 1857, till the first war of independence, the women were completely just contributing themselves to just not only save the nation, but also they are not completely acceptance the exploitation and subjugation of the British Empire or the British colonial policies. Now, the women's movement in India. Whenever we discuss about the movement in the yesterday's session, I think I already mentioned about that why the word like movement is always necessary. See, whenever we discuss about the movement, it is somehow correlating the things who can move easily. So we are just not discussing the participation and the contribution of the women movement in the Indian subcontinent, but also we are looking the whole pan India. If I am looking the whole participation of the Allahabad, Amritsar, we can say Gujarat as well, Delhi, Patna, Nagpur, Sambhalpur, Jhansi, Satara, Marathas, Deccan areas, rest of the Deccan part. So we have numerous of the examples. Right. Growth in autonomous women's organization over the past 3 decades, moreover 30 years ago, and increased awareness of women rights. Whenever we discuss about the awareness of the women rights, surely we are discussing about the wholesome of the not only the awareness but using the equal rights, the enlightenment, and we are looking for the women and the women awareness organization who can not only aware the a particular woman, but a women completely just creating the chain and try to be aware the women from place to a place. Fine. And demand for special cells of women police officers for investigation and change in women's status, stronger political voice when we looking for the equal voting rights, visibility in the economy, in the non-traditional professions. Visibility, like non-traditional professions doesn't mean that we are not going to accept the women in the houses, but definitely when we're looking for the equal balances in the houses and the professional world, and more number of girls in the education, when we're looking for the equal opportunity in the education, when we I think we have already in the present time we have already example of right to education, we have already example like the opportunity to providing to the women. I think number of the states are already making free education to the girls till the higher education. We cannot forget the name like Kerala and we can say Karnataka, where the position and the contribution and the equal participation of the women in the education is completely high. And whenever we're looking for the GR, but somewhere when we're looking for the whole comparison, we cannot forget about the whole data. When I'm looking for GER, we are still looking for a gross enrollment ratio. We are still on the standing 131 position out of 146. So this is not only the worst position in the education of the women in Indian society, but definitely we are also looking for the equal right and equal opportunity. And whenever we're looking like the campaign about the violence against women, from the individual, we have a community level like Jagori, we have a very good examples like Saheli. So we have lots of example and lots of the organization who worked actually not only for the upliftment for the women, the empowering for the women, but definitely when they try to be seek the rights of the women. Fine. Now, what about the first war of independence? So let's move ahead. We are just going to discuss about the from the beginning time phase of women contribution in Indian freedom struggle. So we are just going to start from 1857, and the very common we can say the role, and I think from the childhood when when we were already in the classes like 4th or 5th class, we already I think studying about the Rani Jhansi, Khoob Ladi Rani Jhansi, about the very good poems and very good portrait images we already find out in the books. In the and whenever we discuss about the first war of independence, everyone 1857-58, even though the British succeeded in crushing within a year, it was certainly a popular revolt in which the Indian rulers, the masses we can say, the masses and the military participated so with the help of energy and enthusiastically, we can say that definitely. We cannot forget about the doctrine of lapse and the policies like Dalhousie, when they are not completely just giving the right to the women, that they cannot and the especially for the Nagpur, Sambhalpur, Udaipur, Satara and rest of the other province of the India, when they were not completely allowing them, that they cannot assign the next blood of as a successor of the designation. And Rani Lakshmibai was the great heroine of the first war of independence in freedom struggle 1857, and she showed the embodiment of the patriotism, self-respect and heroism, and she was the queen of a small state but the empress of the limitless empire of glory. Definitely, Rani Jhansi is still an example, and we can say the idol still in the 21st century. Whenever we discuss about the bravery, whenever we discuss about the world like Crusaders and then Indian contribution, whenever we discuss about the role of a women in Indian freedom struggle, and whenever we're looking upon our own rights, we cannot forget the name like Rani Jhansi. So this is all about the struggle movement, beginning of the struggle movement, and the beginning of the participation of Rani Jhansi in 1857. Now, Lakshmi Bai, the Rani of Jhansi, surely we can say the Indian queen. And definitely, whenever we discuss about Maharani consort of Maharaja Princely States of the Jhansi in 1854 to 53, and was wife of a Maharaja Gangadhar Rao, she was one of the leading figures of the Indian rebellion in 1857 and become a symbol of a resistance to the British Raj for the Indian nationalism. Right? Whenever we were using the word like nationalism, I think this was the time of 1857. This was the first time when we started to realize the meaning of a nationalism, the acceptance of a nationalism. Because when we looking the whole first war of independence, we have a numbers of the province, but the province like Punjab, the province like Sindh, and the province like I think the Nagpur and the rest of the part Sambhalpur as well, they are not going to be just realizing or recognizing the meaning of a nationalism, not only as per the need, but they are not somewhere awareing but about the word like nationalism, that it doesn't mean that we are only saving our own state and our own province, but when we looking for the word like nationalism, it is somewhere representing the nation on the next level. And whenever we looking the nation as a Bharat Mata. Fine. And what about the first phase, everyone? Both Indian and men and women were leading the social reform movement since the 1880s. Right? Whenever we're looking after the first phase of 1857, right? So what is the rest of the situation? That we have already a very long term of I think gap in the history after 1857, when we completely arising ourselves in 1905, later on 1919 we have the 1920, and uske baad 1931, then 1947. So you can see the whole gapping. So whenever we looking the whole gap from 1857 till the time of 1905, definitely we are looking the both Indian men and women were leading the social reform movements since 1880s. Women is consciousness around social and the national questions started growing from that time. And early phase of the international movement, when we looking 1857, right? So the demand of a legal reform and inclusion of the Indian into the Imperial Legislative Council. Surely we cannot forget the time phase of a 19th century, when we're looking almost the time phase of a social religious movement, and the late 19th century education, late 19th century, when we're looking the social religious movement, the Renaissance period in India, the Reformation, the rebirth, the Enlightenment, the social changes produced a new variety of reading. When the women start to read the books, definitely they are just creating, they are not start to reading the books, but definitely the books and the readings and the knowledge of the book somehow just providing them, or the whole women of the society just creating a new perception. And the writing public, where the women's proportion was scanty, but the education and the political awareness through newspaper influenced the education women. So whenever we discuss about the 20th century, about the education of the women, we cannot forget the name like Jyotiba Phule, we cannot forget the name of Ishwarchandra Vidyasagar, right? So we have a Karve as well, where and Ranade, where he opened the first school of women education in the Pune. So this is somehow a very good example of early 20th century, when the readings, the literature, the education somehow not awareing the women, but also when they started to realizing that how the education is very much crucial need, we can say, not importance, the need of the Indian society. This is the only weapon who can aware the women in the society, that how you can survive in the society, and how you can get your social status equals equality in the social status later on. And gradually, the late 19th century and early 20th century women organization mushroomed all over the India, right? Spreading, when we looking the whole pan India, looking about the women organization, that I already giving the example of a Saheli, that I already giving the example of a Jagori as well. Now, so we cannot forget about the name of Sarla Devi Chaudharani, Rabindranath Tagore's niece, when she started to contributing herself to educating the women. and rest of his salary which she earned from with the scholarship, he completely spent the whole scholarship for the education of the women, and organized Bharat Stri Mahamandalam in 1910. And the Stri Mahamandalam in 1910 is just not only the organization, but still somewhere it is giving the equal opportunity and just awareing the women, and just definitely giving the place for the women who are completely boycotted and just discarded from the society, just because of the rigid perception of the society in 1910. She modified the Hindu festival to Ashtami and we can say the Brihashtami, so as to celebrate the victorious heroes from the past. And still in the present time, everyone, we are celebrating the festivals like we can say the Durga Puja. We have already the Navratris, where we always consider the girl like a Devis. And 1882, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, 1838 to 1894, Lord Anandamath, describing the revolutionary who laid the lives for their motherland, and his popular hymn Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram became the song of the anti-colonial Indians and association for all times to come. When we looking that Vande Bharat, Vande Mataram as the portraying as a lady who are just not only the definition of perfection, but surely somewhere it is the idol, and we can say the image, or we can say the figures like Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram is somehow portraying the image as a contribution and the Shakti and the power in the Indian society, right? And you can see about the non-cooperation, everyone. See, the word like non-cooperation movement launched 1920, and non-cooperation movement, whenever we discuss about 1922 time phase, 1920 and 21, this was the time phase, everyone, when we looking about the non-cooperation launched, right? This is the second phase of the participation of the Indian women. We already discussed about the first phase of contribution and participation of the women in Indian freedom struggle. This slide is somehow showing you, everyone, about the contribution of the second phase of a women freedom struggle, about non-cooperation women, non-cooperation of movement, where Mahatma Gandhi leading the whole movement. Later on, it completely discarded because of Chora Chori, and this is completely suspended later on. But surely this movement is somehow is not only celebrating that we are just contributing ourselves, our ideas, and our strength in for the freedom of the nation, but definitely we cannot imagine the whole non-cooperation movement without the participation and without the contribution of the women, because women is not only participating, but also they are just working as a spies in different places. And Gandhiji returned to India from South Africa in 1915 and took up the demand for a self-rule and non-cooperation movement. And I'm just going to take the name of Sarla Devi, we can say Muthu Lakshmi Reddy, Sushila Nair, Rajkumari Amrita Kaur, definitely, and she is from Punjab. She worked a lot for the women education. Sushila Nair, she worked for not only awareing or motivating the women in the groups or in the society, but surely somehow she completely contributing by separating the feeling of nationalism in between the women. And Suchitra Kripalani as a political leader, Aruna Asaf Ali as a revolutionary lady, we can say, in the late 1917 or 1920th century. That's why we are discussing about the contribution of a non-cooperation movement, not only about the personalities like Subhadra Kumari Chauhan and Sarojini Naidu, but still we are discussing about the personalities like revolutionary ladies, we can say the women as well, in the like Aruna Asaf Ali, and some of the women who participated in the non-violent movement. So we cannot forget the name like Aruna Asaf Ali, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit we have. So we have a numerous of the names in the non-cooperation movement, everyone. Now, you can say about the Rajkumari Amrita Kaur. She is from Punjab actually, and she is the first. I think this information is completely misleading, everyone, and some of the facts and figures in the history is completely hindrance in these days, and we are not completely aware about the we can say the एक जो contribution होता है, which is completely unforgettable, right? So somehow Amrita Kaur, the first health minister, 10 years, and the first woman to hold cabinet rank, a member of the Constituent Assembly that framed the constitution, So you can just look at the role of the women, you can look at the role of Amrita Kaur, you can look at the contribution of Amrita Kaur, and you can look at the we can say the contribution not only as a health minister but also holding the designation to participating in the Constitute Assembly, and she is a co-founder All India Women Conference, all AIWC, right, 1927, became its president in 1933, where she completely just arising the question on the society or the British Empire, who are not going to be provide equal opportunity to the women to taking the education, right. And we cannot forget in 1933 about the not only the role of Amrita Kaur, but definitely we can ensure to taking the name of the sisters like we have a Margareta sisters, and imprisoned thrice by the Raj, Dandi March 1930, right, for the sedition 1937, and during the Quit India movement 1942. So you can just looking not only the beginning of the era of 19th century, but in the whole time phase of India, we can say the free India, that she is already taking the designation of a health minister more over 10 years, but also she participated completely, fully, or contributing herself in the co-founder All India Women Conference in 1927, become its president in 1933 and 1930. So definitely 37, 42 and 30 is somehow a very prominent freedom struggles in the we can say the freedom struggle movement events, we can say. And force behind aims raised funds from across the whole world, became its first president. So this is such a very nice I think information, everyone, that she is also considered as the first president of AIMS, All India Medical Sciences. And let me discuss about the role of Aruna Asaf Ali. Earlier I discussed about the lady like Amrita Kaur. She is completely accepted the ideology of Mahatma Gandhi, and not only accepted the ideology of Mahatma Gandhi, but she always tried to be motivate. She always tried to be motivate the people with the non-violence attitude, with the we can say with the gradual process we can change everything. So this is somehow the lady we can specifically counted in the phase of not only the being a lady as a choosing the policy like non-violence, but whenever we discuss about the revolutionary ladies, we cannot forget the name of Aruna Asaf Ali, brave hearts of Indian freedom movement, right, and known as the grand old lady of independence and heroine of a Quit India movement 1942. Fine. Key contribution of the freedom movement, everyone. The first contribution, which is completely unforgettable, 1942, when the Quit India movement was started, hoisted INC flag as a Gwalior tank, made it in Mumbai, Quit India movement. And 1954, founder of a National Federation of India Women, that we have already two federation. When we look at about the Amrita Kaur, she completely contributing herself to making the organization like All India Women Conferences, where we taking the issues, we arising the issues completely related with the women. And whenever we looking the revolutionary ladies like Aruna Asaf Ali, she contributing herself in the Indian women, the women wings of CPI like National Federation of India, and edited the Congress Party monthly magazine Inqilab. Right, so this is somehow not only looking the contribution with the weapons, with the ideas, but with the help of education, and started weekly journal and newspaper patriot for upliftment of a women's status. This is such a very nice information with Aruna Asaf Ali, that she is not only participating and contributing in the freedom struggle movement. His role is never ended over till the freedom struggle movement, but surely when we looking the whole participation of Aruna Asaf Ali, that the participation of Aruna Asaf Ali is not ended over till the time of freedom struggle movement, but surely we can count down the women status, the newspaper, we can say the upliftment of the women. So this is somehow working the ideology of Aruna Asaf Ali to uplifting the women in the society. And we can say served as the first elected mayor of Delhi. So this is such a very nice information of Aruna Asaf Ali, that the whole life the Aruna Asaf Ali contributing, not only fighting for the Indian freedom struggle, but after the freedom she always holding the designation of the mayor, like a mayor of Delhi, working on the upliftment of the women, the social status, the equality, awareness the women on a different perspective and different reasons. Now, you can see the next image of Aruna Asaf Ali, everyone, and which is completely, very good afternoon, Tulsi. Whenever we're looking about the next slide of Aruna Asaf Ali, I think this is not only the contribution of Aruna Asaf Ali made it limited till the freedom struggle movement, but definitely we can we can say the participation, the contribution, and the revolutionary ideology before more over 200 years ago. This is such a very, I think, the matter of strength and matter of bravery as well. The Aruna Asaf Ali, the way she has participated in the freedom struggle movement, and she always not consider as a heroine of a quit India movement in 1942, but hunger strike on Tihar in 1932 against the ill treatment of a political prisoners, which led to be an improvement in the condition. See, whenever we discuss about the the situation like Tihar jail and the hunger strike, the one name is always hated in our mind. We cannot forget the name of like the personalities like Bhagat Singh. I think somehow Aruna Asaf Ali is completely influenced with the personalities like Bhagat Singh. And he was not only the person who completely just giving the opinion as a revolutionary कि भाई आप violence से ही सब कुछ कर सकते हैं, but definitely Aruna Asaf Ali is also impressed a lot with Bhagat Singh, and the hunger strike of Tihar in 1932 is definitely influenced by Bhagat Singh. And whenever we discuss about 1932, we cannot forget about the Quit India movement. So surely it is showing the participation of Aruna Asaf Ali in civil disobedience movement as well. And I already mentioned about the grand old lady of independence. She always going to be become later on the designation of holding the designation of a mayor in Delhi as well, and hosted the national flag Congress flag at the Gwalior Tank Maidan. Okay, meditation Rain, thank you so much for informing me. Now, so it is a very important whenever you attend this session on the YouTube of the NCERT, everyone. I feel it is a very difficult to connect with the teachers directly, but whenever we choose the exam for initiative to taking the classes of the NCERTs on the applications, you can directly discuss your doubts. You can ask your doubts with the teachers, right? Okay. Now, you can say definitely you can join us on the Zoom meetings. You can choose your particular time. You can already taking that more over 200, 1200 questions of MCQs, right? And you have already, when the teacher are just showing you and just giving you the idea that how you can write down the good answers of the NCERTs and what are the benefits you can take moreover plus 5 to 25 while live classes and in a very minimal I think minimum prices. I think it is moreover I think 2000 rupees everyone, and class PDF you definitely you can get the class PDF daily. You can just take the study plan. Course validity is all about 12 months, so you can get the whole NCERT batch, moreover 525 live sessions, class PDFs, doubt session, Zoom session, answer writing practices, PDFs, notes within only 200, sorry, 2000 rupees for 12 months. This is such a very big deal, and the session is just going to started already. We are running batches. We are going on already happened from 19th of August, and the class is just going to be will be ending 20th January 2023. So this is all about the session of 12 months where you can get the whole NCERT batch in a very minimum rates. I think rupees I think 2000 is not a very much sufficient amount to taking all these benefits, where you can connect with your faculties or with our exam put team directly. You can ask your doubts and everything. Okay, and this is known as the Mantra NCERT batch. So you can see the name. Bipesh sir is taking polity, right? And Vipin sir taking geography. Jubair sir is taking science. Amrendra sir is history. Suchit sir is taking economics. Everyone, right? And definitely you can join the this application batch while downloading the exampur exampur preparation app. You can register yourself. You can just download the app. You can just choose for whatever the exam you want to just go ahead. And so you have a numbers of the opportunities. So just go on the Play Store, download it, and just purchase this. I think the surprising batch today only. While कि लेट करने से पहले बेहतर होगा कि इसको पहले से ज्वाइन कर लें. And how can you purchase, everyone? You can just put it the name of a NCERT Mantra batch. You can just buy the course. You can see this NCERT. You can use the code like NCERT 50. You can got 50% discount here. Fine. Later on, definitely you can just download. Payment successful होने के बाद आप इसको download कर सकते हैं, use कर सकते हैं. And if the students have a doubt that how the classes is running on, the teacher is up to the mark for the subject or not, हालांकि ऐसा नहीं है. आई थिंक एग्जामपुर टीम इज अ वेरी बेस्ट टीम फॉर NCERT. is just launching the NCERT, and this is not our first batch. We are already launching more or 2 or 3 batches. So this batch is completely beneficial for everyone, and this batch is completely in a Hindi medium, right? This is not bilingual. So you can choose the teachers. You can see the demo, and for the NCERT session for your 2020 and 2023 NCERT Mantra batch. So this is somehow a very beneficial batch for everyone. Okay, and this is all about the information about the exampur app, and I already. हाँ मोदी जिग्नेशा, डेफिनेटली ये आपकी UPSC के लिए भी है. मैंने आई थिंक ऑलरेडी मेंशन भी किया है. दिस NCERT batch not only for the UPSC but also for the PCS state exams. We have CDS, and I think 2000 amount is not too much to spending on the NCERT, where you get collection of the NCERT of each and every subject from 6 to 12, right? It is such a very big deal, everyone, कि 2000 में आजकल कुछ नहीं आता. इफ यू आर जस्ट गोइंग टू परचेज द होल ऑफ द बुक्स फ्रॉम 6 to 12 स्टैंडर्ड ना, यू कैन नॉट परचेज द होल बुक्स इन rupees 2000. And here we are already providing you everyone moreover plus 500 live session, demo session, Zoom session, PDF, PPTs. So this is such a very big deal, and this is such a very good initiative. The example is taking for the students who are not going to be choose the moreover the amount of 1 lakh 2 lakh rupees for the UPSC preparation. So this is such a very big initiative taken by the institutions, educational institutions, right? ठीक है मोदी, जिग्नेशा, okay. Now Vijay Lakshmi Pandit, 18th of August 1900, December 1919, was elected as the first female president on the United Nations General Assembly, and she was the daughter of Motilal Nehru, a wealthy and aristocratic sisters of Jawaharlal Nehru. And she was the member of Aligarh Muslim University Executive Council, and she never received any formal education. 1921, receiving a private education in India and abroad. She got married to Ranjit Sidaram Pandit, and she was also the president of the All India Women Conference between 1941 to 1943. This was the all about the All India National Conference, which is already founded by Amrita Kaur in 1937. Now let's move ahead with the civil disobedience movement, everyone. I think this is the third phase of the freedom struggle movement. We already covered about 1857 when we discussed about Rani Jhansi. We already covered about the wholesome thing, the non-cooperation movement, when we already discussed about the role of women like Amrita Kaur, the women like Aruna Asaf Ali. And in this session, the third session of the freedom struggle movement, we are just going to discuss about the role and the contribution of civil disobedience movement, everyone. And civil disobedience movement and the Dandi Salt March 1932, it happened actually. Women started to take a march on the road to the liberty by the breaking salt laws, forest law. And why the salt? Because the British colonial policies is just putting the high taxation on the salt, and salt is somehow a very basic need of every class. People who belong from a lower class and the people who just surviving in the middle class, it's very difficult to purchase all this thing. So they started to boycotting the salt law and forest law. Forest law means when they are not completely allowing the people who are living in the outskirts of the geographical parts of the India, they completely boycotted or just get out all the people who are living and surviving for the forest, and specifically for those people who their basic sources just coming out from the forest, and taking out the Prabhat ferries. Prabhat ferries is like a ferries is completely started from early morning, from 3 am in the morning, and processions, picketing, schools, colleges, legislative of councils and clubs, when we looking the boycotting of all the colonial rule policies and the boycotting the foreign goods as well. And Sarojini Naidu was the specially nominated as the Gandhiji to initiate raid on the Dharasana salt work in May 1930, where they break down the law of salt. And during the movement, Kamala Devi addressed meeting and preparing salt and picked foreign cloth, and in liquor shops, Nari Satyagraha Committee, where they are looking for the empowering the women, Mahila Rashtriya Sangh, where they are wearing the whole women of the nation to participating in the national movement, or specifically in the civil disobedience movement. And ladies picketing broad played important role during this period, when the ladies or the women started to boycotting completely the foreign rules, and the forcefully implemented rules, right? So a country's greatness lies in its undying ideals of love and sacrifice that inspired the mothers of the race. Sarojini Naidu, I think she was a lady who's not only she was not only educated, but somehow she is also considered as a Kokila of Bharat, and she is just representing the whole India and the whole women organization in a very different level. So this is not only the contribution about Sarojini Naidu, but she is always defining the whole nation and the whole women with the greatness I think ideals of the love and the sacrifices and the inspire the mothers of the race. So this is such a very nice line in itself, that Sarojini Naidu is just expressing the lines in a very poetist matter context in front of everyone. And the social and the political discrimination. See, after the third phase of we can say the third phase of a freedom struggle movement, whenever we looking about the society and the polity, the discrimination, when we looking the social status, when we looking the women, the equality on the society, on the level of society, discrimination in the political basis, when we looking, when the women is asking for their own equal rights. Women in India, belong to different places. They lag behind the men. All indicators the social and the human development, such as life expectancy, health, nutrition, and education levels. Women are concentrated on unskilled, semi-skilled, and low paid. When we looking, the woman is participating economically. Like production, the number of the female headed households has been increasing, and they are amongst the poorest in our countries. And the participation of the women in the political and the social decision making, right, it's completely low. And women participation in the parliamentary has never been higher than 10% till now. And therefore they have little say in the formulation of the social, economic, legal, political rules which govern their life somewhere. So this is somehow a very important, we can say, discussion on the social but also on the political discrimination, right. Hmm. Now, revolutionary activities. The organization of the revolutionary was very active in Dhaka, Komila, and Chittagaon, and young college girls came into his fold. The famous group of the women revolutionary consists of the Samiti and Suniti, Bina Das, Kalpana Datta, and Preeti Lata Vadeyar. These are somehow the girls who are completely revolutionary. I can also can take the name of Aruna Asaf Ali. And revolutionary means the girl who are completely influenced with the ideology of Bhagat Singh, the ideology of the leftist, we can say, the ideology of the Marxist, and the ideology of the people who always think that the India never ever get freedom with the non-violence policy. If we really want to get free India, it is very important to choose the ideology like non-violence. It is the only way to get the India free. And surely not only the male person, we can say but specifically the women who are belonging from different paths, they also participating in the somehow, and different reasons. They are not only teaching the students or preaching the women that how you can just change your ideology, how can you demand for your equality and rights. They are not only awareing the women that how you can just get the equal right in the on the basis of the social status, but definitely they ensuring the women of making of the bombs, the weapons, and how they sometimes when they started looking for the human bombing. So this is somehow a very great achievement for the women. When they come out not only for the survival, they come out for the sacrifice, the contribution, and the participation in the freedom struggle movements. Now, brave hearts of the Indian freedom struggle. So I'm just taking the name of Sarojini Naidu, everyone. 1837 to it's almost 1949, after the independence of India. And it is also known as a Nightingale of India, Swar Kokila of India. And in 1925 chaired annual session of Indian National Congress at Kanpur. Leading role in the civil disobedience movement, was sent to jail along with the Gandhi in 1931. 42, when we looking about the Quit India movement, arrested during the Quit India movement, jailed for 21 months, moreover the time phase of moreover 2 years. An amendment poet writer, then famous work like The Golden Threshold 1905, The Bird of a Time 1912. So when we looking about the time of a golden thresh 1905, we cannot forget about the partition of Bengal. And Sarojini Naidu is just representing the partition of Bengal, the situation of the people, and the feeling of a nationalism in a very well manner in her book Golden Threshold. So that's why this is somehow very prominent writing considering as the Sarojini Naidu, and first woman governor of independent India and was commissioned in Uttar Pradesh. So this is also considering as a very important information we can say from the side of the brave hearts of the Indian freedom movement of Sarojini Naidu, and passed away on March 20, 1949 after the independence of India. After 2 years she passed away, but definitely behind of her she left moreover the memories that she the way she is contributing, the way she participating in the international movement, and the contribution and the participation is not only we can see the physically, the strengthly, the couragely, but also the literary parts of Sarojini Naidu, wearing the women, the whole community, not only the Bengal, the whole West Bengal, but surely the different parts of the India, and still the writings of Sarojini Naidu still inspiring the people, inspiring the women, and for participating in anywhere with the heart of courage and with the unscaredness attitude. The Quit India Movement 1942, again we cannot forget the name of Usha Mehta, everyone. Usha Mehta is definitely correlating with AIR, All India Radio. From the help of All India Radio, she definitely awareing numbers of the women, related with the awareness about the movements and Quit India resolution. When we discuss about the fourth phase of freedom struggle movement after civil disobedience movement taken against the British, directly address women, disciplined soldiers of Indian freedom required to sustain the flame of a war, where Mahatma Gandhi giving the final call of a do and die, and the ladies and the women like Usha Mehta is committed a patriot set of a radio transmitted call the voice freedom to disseminate the mantra of a freedom war, where with the help of All India Radio she tried to be aware to every we can say part of India, and the against the opinion and the ideology of a East India Company, and news of protest and arrest, deeds of young nationalists, and the Gandhi's famous dies message for the Quit India movement were circulated among the whole of the masses. And that's why Usha Mehta and her brother persisted with their task of broadcasting until their arrest. So this is somehow a very important, we can say, task, very important contribution, not only by Usha Mehta, but the women that I already considering as a Sarojini Naidu, Subhadra Kumari Chauhan, where they not only portraying the Indian national freedom in a literary way, but specifically they are just physically appearance, and the contribution of the women in the freedom struggle movement is a matter of appreciation as well, right? So Quit India movement, the four phases we have. Now the Quit India movement we already discussed. And what about Usha Mehta, Gandhian, and we can say the freedom fighter, we can say, remember for the organizing the secret radio, Congress radio from the underground station during the Quit India movement 1942. Right, whenever we discuss about the third point, her association for secret radio including Vittal Bhai Javeri, Chandrakant Javeri, Babu Bhai Thakkar, and Nanak Motiawa, owner of a Chicago radio, who supplied equipment and provided the technicians, participated in the protest against Simon Commission as 8 years old. When she was 8 years old, early in her life she decided to live in celibate life and took up the Gandhian lifestyle. And we cannot forget about the time phase of 1942, and she is doctoral as well. She has a thesis was on political and social thought of Gandhi, wrote many books in English and Gujarati as well, and involved Gandhi Smark Nidhi, we can say, is also considered as a Vidya Bhavan. So this is somehow a very important contribution of Usha Mehta in the time phase of a freedom struggle movement, right? Now, see, whenever we before just going to the conclusion, everyone, I would just like sum up the session in a very few slides, that what we discussed in the whole sum in the whole lecture. See, whenever we discuss about the conclusion, if I am discussing that freedom struggle movement is limited in some of the we can say the phases that I already discussed about the non-cooperation movement, first war of independence, civil disobedience movement, Quit India movement. So we have a numerous we have, I think, a long history in freedom struggle movement. But whenever we discuss and just want to sum up the lecture on the conclusion, I think it's very difficult to sum up the whole lecture in a sort on 5 to 6 lines with the conclusion. because women, I think, shouldered critically responsibility in India's struggle for the freedom, and they had public meetings, organization, shop selling foreign alcohol and articles, sold khati and actively participating in national movement, and they bravely faced the baton of a police and went to jails. Hundreds and thousands of the Indian women dedicated their lives for obtaining freedom from their motherland. So this is somehow a very, we can say, a very great contribution from the side of the women, not only because they are just contributing themselves for the freedom struggle, but this is somehow showing the contribution, the courage of the women, the way they participating, the way they leave everything and just go ahead to just get the freedom to India by hook and by crook. And definitely we have a numbers of the women. I think it's a difficult to count each and every women, every woman that and it is very difficult to remember each and every women that who already contributing themselves from last 500 or we can say 300 years, from the time phase of 1857 till the time of 1947. Fine. I think I already mentioned about everyone how to download the exam preparation app. Just go ahead on the Play Store, everyone. You can just write down the exam Sarkari preparation app. Right, later on you can install it. You can register with your phone number and with your help of email ID. And if you are to preparing the government job is your future dream, if you really want to qualify your government job, surely you can download, you can install, you can choose your section of preparation. Just go ahead, and definitely you can just not only download but also share the app with your within your peer group, and surely with your we can say the relatives, your friends, so that people have to be aware that we have a app of example Sarkari Naukri preparation, where you can not only get the career counseling but also you can just get to ask your doubts. You can connect with us with the help of a Zoom. We have a numerous of the I think techniques to use us. Use as means that you can definitely use the study materials, get the PDF as well. So you have a numbers of the opportunities. You will get the number of opportunities and number of the chances to qualify the government exam, just clicking on the Exampur Sarkari Naukri preparation app. Fine. So let's move ahead on the conclusion, everyone, that what the conclusion is showing us exactly. See, whenever I discuss about the independence, broad promise of equality on opportunity in all sphere of Indian women, the laws guaranteed their equal rights of participation in the political process and equal opportunity and right in the education, employment were enacted. But unfortunately, the government sponsored development activities have benefits only a small section of women. Unaffected changes, we have benefited only a small section of women, the urban middle class women, right? So this is somehow not only showing the biasness that the session that we done already, but definitely this is somehow showing the biasness of the, we can say that some of the women is only benefited with the government initiatives. Not all the women are getting the benefits and initiatives, right? Okay, so this is all about the session, everyone. So I would just like to mention that what I did, what I discussed in the session. First of all, see, in the whole of the question, everyone, I already discussed about the women's status, and we can say the contribution. Just a minute. We can say the contribution in Indian freedom struggle, right? That I already discussed everything. So what we did actually, first of all, it is a very important in the question that you have to be understand the question. What the understand is understand the question. Fine. Number two, it is very important to choose the approach. Okay. Number three, it is very important to understand after the approach to choose the keywords. Fine. And number four, it is very important to get to understand after the last, we can say the last but not the least, we can say the conclusion. Okay, so what about the we can say understanding the question? The question is directly asked on the status of the women. Status of women. Status of the women means the question is directly asked on the economic equality, the social equality, the political equality, fine, and about the cultural we can say about religious, administrative and political. Fine. And what about the approach, everyone? Right, what about the approach? See, the intro, we can say the mid body and the conclusion. In the intro, it is very important to mention that what is the freedom struggle and what do you understand by the meaning of freedom struggle. Mid body, you have to be mentioned about the three of the phases. From the beginning, 1857, First War of Independence. Later on, it is very important to discuss and mention about the 1921 non-cooperation movement. Later on, it is very important to discuss about the participation and contribution of the women after 1931, the civil disobedience movement, and which is completely unforgettable, and the contribution of the women in 1942 about the Quit India movement. Fine. And what about the conclusion? Keywords means that you have to be use the word like resistance, the contribution, the subject, and the subjugation, the suppression. And whenever we use the word like conclusion, you have to be mentioned about the positive and the negative aspects of the development of the woman, that the growth is actually happened or not, the development is actually happened or not, the initiatives of the government is actually working or not, right? And you have to be mentioned the whole question of current update. Definitely, if I'll giving the presently example of Bilkis Bano, surely you can just connect the example, you can just discuss about the women empowerment, you just discuss about the economic perspective, the economic the equal contribution and equal opportunity in the education and the economic perspective. So this is somehow a very important question. It's not representing the social issues, everyone, but surely this is somehow representing the whole attitude of the society, that the way are thinking about the women, right? Just a minute, think. Okay. So this is all about the session, everyone. I would just like to meet later on everyone at 2:30 and just going to discuss about the discovery of India, the lost, we can say the lost history, and I'm just going to discuss about the wholesome discussion on the Mohenjo-daro. So don't forget to join me after 3 or 4 minutes later on. Fine. And this is not only the very important session, everyone, but this session is just teaching you a lot about everything, that how you can create the good perception about the society, and how you can just correlating everything, the social issues and the cultural issues and the economic, how can you uplift the women in these days. So this is all about the session. We will meet sharp at within 2 or 3 minutes. Don't forget to join me at sharp 2:30 for the next session about the Mohenjo-daro. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone.